The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, folks. I can hear church bells in the background, so I'm not sure if it's still good morning or afternoon. But anyway, welcome to this webinar. We're broadcasting from a very rainy Birmingham today. The European Solidarity Corps Training of Trainers webinar, which we'll be involved with, we'll be delivering for the next couple of hours. We'd like firstly to introduce ourselves, and we're going to use the webcam feature to do that. So we're just going to switch to webcam so that you can see our faces in case you wish to recognize it. So we're just switching to webcam now so that you can get to see the team.
I'll start. So hello, my name is Anam, and I am a project manager managing the... Sorry, I was unmuted there. But my name's Anam. I am a project manager managing the networking activities. These include contact seminars, partnership building activities, and training courses to support the wider European Solidarity Corps team. Fantastic to have you here today, and I really hope that this training is really useful for you. I'll now pass over to my colleague Eva, who will introduce herself.
Hello everybody, my name is Eva and I'm project manager working with delivery team for European Solidarity Corps, and I'm here today to answer any questions that you may have regarding the program. I hope you find this webinar useful. Thank you.
Okay, folks. Yeah, I'm Gerald Dowden. Maybe one or two of you met me in the past, because I've been involved in the youth work sector in the UK and Europe for a long time. I'm a youth worker by profession. The first international piece of work I did was to take a group of young men to West Germany back in the mid-1980s, when Germany was still a country divided into two. And we stayed in a conference centre a few hundred meters from the border. That's going back to the mid-1980s. And I've been involved in European youth work and youth work in the UK in the non-formal learning sector ever since. I'm now a consultant trainer in that sector. That's the last you'll see of our faces for today. So we're going to switch back to the PowerPoint, which we're going to be using as the backbone of the webinar. So that's all from our faces. We'll get on with the PowerPoint now. Okay, what are the objectives of the webinar? Well, the webinar continues on from the training course that was held at the end of January, beginning of February. Training of Trainers web training course. That had three objectives, and we're retaining two of those objectives for the webinar. The first one, as you can see, is to upskill participants' understanding of the new European Solidarity Corps program. Yeah, we're aware that all of us are quite new to this, some newer than others, so trying to upskill your understanding. And at the same time, trying to build bridges and examples between the previous EVS program and ESC to provide a clearer flow and distinction from one program to another, as we're aware that many of you were involved in the delivery of EVS before. The training course itself was delivered by the three of us, the team today, with the support of other Ecorys colleagues. Now you can see the attractive design. Okay, the program itself. Session one, we'll be looking at the European Solidarity Corps. We'll be doing an update on where the progress of the Corps to date, and specifically in terms of what's happening in the UK. Then we'll be looking at the solidarity features of UK-approved European Solidarity Corps projects. This is a bit of a mystery, or has been a bit of a mystery, so we'll look a bit more closely at that. And then, as we say, we'll be looking at differences between the European Solidarity Corps and EVS projects. There'll be a short interval, and as I said, we may be responding to questions within the interval. The second half of the webinar from 1 o'clock, session 2, we'll be looking at the inclusion of young people, a very important feature of ESC. The training evaluation cycle, which has trainers, many of you will, well, all of you will be involved with in different ways. And Youthpass and accreditation of learning. There would be the things we look at in the second part of the program. So let's look more closely at the program itself. Yeah, and we'll begin with a quick poll to measure your present understanding of
Thank you, Gerald. So we're going to start with a quick poll, and that's really to get your understanding of the European Solidarity Corps. So I'll just launch this poll now. If you could please vote between 0 and 5 in terms of your understanding of ESC, with 0 being not comfortable and 5 being highly comfortable with your knowledge and understanding of the program. So I'll give you around a minute or so to cast your votes, and then we'll close the poll and see what the answers are. Okay, thank you for casting your votes. I'm going to close the poll and release the results. So as we can see, we've got various understanding of the program. Hopefully this webinar will help and aid those that have got more of an understanding and those that would like to learn a little bit more about the program and what it involves. Thank you for that. I'm now going to move on to a quick Brexit update in terms of where we are with the UK at the moment. In terms of Brexit, currently we support the government recommendations that applications are submitted as normal for the upcoming deadlines for 2019 call for proposals for the European Solidarity Corps programme. And this will really ensure that organisations and individuals can take part in the programme if a withdrawal agreement is in place. The government has issued an updated technical notice providing guidance to organisations and individuals on the UK's anticipated participation in the current ESC programme from 2018 to 2020 after the UK leaves the EU. An FAQ document has also been published by the government with answers to some of the common key questions surrounding Brexit. You can find further information on the European Solidarity Corps and government.gov.uk website for more information, and also we are also on hand to support with any questions that you have. In terms of the implementation of the European Solidarity Corps programme. In the UK, this is administered by Ecorys UK, which is one of the two counterparts of the UK National Agency. And as Gerald mentioned earlier, we're delivering this webinar here today from our office in Birmingham. I'll now pass back over to Gerald and he'll take you through the rest of the training.
Okay, folks. As you can see, I'm having some technical issues here, just while I catch up with a slide that should be on the screen at the moment. I could see from the response that everybody knows something about the European Solidarity Corps, and one or two of you seem to know a significant amount. So be interested to see of what value the content of this webinar is. Okay, just to kind of remind us all what the aim of the Solidarity Core is. I think you all know this, but I'm just going to go through it quickly. So the ESC brings together young people to build a more inclusive society, supporting vulnerable people and responding to societal challenges. It offers an inspiring and empowering experience for young people who want to help, learn and develop, and provides a single entry point for such solidarity activities throughout the Union. So you'll see the features there, that the inclusive, societal, empowering experience. These are things that are central to the ESC. So how is it structured? There are four, I'm going to call them strands. There are four strands to the ESC. Volunteering, and that's the strand that we'll focus on mainly today. Traineeships and jobs, solidarity projects, and the quality label. In the UK, the traineeship strand is not available because it doesn't fit within the apprenticeship framework within the UK. So we're not able to offer the traineeship strand in the UK, although young people can enjoy the traineeship strand in other countries where it's being run. But the job strand is available. We'll be looking more closely at volunteering in a second. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at the awards that have been made to date, February, for the October round of applications. These have come out recently. And as you can see from this, within volunteering, 10 volunteering projects have been awarded grants to the tune of €660,000. The volunteering, I'll skip down to the volunteering partnerships framework. These are the framework agreements that last for 3 years. And as you can see, with that, 9 projects have been awarded grants, a total almost of €8 million over the course of 3 years. Of those 9, it's the 8 volunteering partnerships you can see above. They've been awarded a grant for the first year, and they've been awarded €940,000 in the first year. So they're the framework agreement partnerships in the first year, those 8 here. So volunteering is well underway as a strand. Jobs, none were awarded, although for the present round, the February round, there are applications being considered, and there were no solidarity projects awarded in the first round. With the solidarity projects, as you probably know, because these are projects involving young people leading on projects themselves, it's not surprising that with the first round, it was quite complex for young people to submit applications. But there are a number of applications in currently, so that's good news. And can I just say, with my youth work hat on, solidarity project, the older youth initiatives, for those of you that remember those. Projects, that's a great development in ESC. 5 young people or more, and coaches can assist young people with the development of those projects. And we'll say a little bit more about coaching a bit later. And the next application rounds in 2019 are 30th of April and 1st of October. So if any of you are not just trainers, but also want to submit applications, I hope this gives you some background information to help you with that. All right, we thought that the best way to look at how awards are being made would be to look at the award criteria. So with the award criteria for volunteering projects, so these are for the projects that you saw have been awarded in the first round. So the criteria are split into 3 sections. This first section is the relevance, rationale and impact of the project. It carries 30% of the overall mark. And this measures the degree to which the project, 1, promotes solidarity, 2, addresses well-defined and important societal needs, and 3, provides benefits to the communities in which activity happens. This is 3 of the measures. There are more, but these are the 3 that we feel are most important to focus on here. So we're going to look at what those projects that were awarded grants, what they identify within each of these sections. So, promoting solidarity. One project is involving volunteers with special needs from Belarus, working to promote inclusion of migrants in the UK. That's a 9-month project. Another project is UK volunteers helping deliver sports and life skills activities to girls and young women, and this is in Palestine. This is a 12-month project. Another project in the UK, volunteers from the UK and across Europe, living together in a sustainable eco-village in Scotland. That's a 12-month project. Another one is involving volunteers from many countries working on animal welfare. And finally, a project using a major music festival in England to promote European solidarity cause to a wide audience. So you can see that the solidarity as a concept is very broad. This represents quite a large scope. If we look at the next criteria, well-defined and important societal needs. So again, these are some of the areas, some of the topics identified within those applications. Tackling discrimination and hate crime, addressing the lack of non-formal and quality youth training opportunities, addressing macro and micro level economic and environmental problems, developing practical skills for sustainable living, and enabling people with disabilities to access social, leisure, and employment activities. So again, in terms of societal needs, that's a real spread, and I think really quite interesting topics that projects are addressing. And finally, benefits to the community in which activity happens, promoting the social inclusion of migrants, promoting active citizenship and volunteering in local projects, promoting wider healthy living choices and increasing well-being, increasing the geographical spread of organisations utilising the programme in Northern Ireland, and supporting capacity building to manage involvement in international mobility projects. So again, a real variety of community benefits there, and you can see the way in which 2 or 3 of these projects do relate to programs beyond ESC. So in that sense, that they really are developing the concept of the principle of solidarity. And another part of the award criteria that we'll look at here is the quality of project delivery. And this is the quality of the measures proposed to do 2 things. Enable participants to gain skills and competencies that are valuable tools in terms of personal, educational, social, civic and cultural development, and to improve the participants' employability and facilitate their integration into the labour market. So again, let's look at the competencies or the learning development that was identified within the successful projects in this last round. So, positive attitudes towards non-formal learning and experiential learning. Improved understanding of community development. Hands-on practical skills for sustainable living. Running social enterprises. Experience in communication and team building. Understanding of the internal running of organizations. Experience of working in an international and multicultural environment. An increased sense of initiative and motivation. Improved foreign language competence. And implementing a sports for development framework. So again, we can see there a whole variety of learning areas. Understanding is there, practical skills, and I would say attitudes, positive attitudes towards non-formal learning, for example. So all the domains of learning are represented in the competencies there. So let's look a bit more closely at differences between EVS and ESC, and I'm going to pass over to my colleague Anam to take you through these.
So at the moment, on screen, you can see that there's a number of elements that we've identified, looking at the comparisons between what was previously implemented in the EVS program and what we have currently for ESC. So if we start with in-country placements, previously in EVS, placements were only cross-border and they didn't allow for in-country activities, whereas now in ESC we have in-country activities which really facilitate and allow the participation of young people with fewer opportunities who may not be as confident to take part in a cross-border activity. So in-country placements allow for them to take that first step into volunteering and have the ability to volunteer in their local community first. In-country placements also allow young people to participate in opportunities where national schemes do not exist. So that's another change that was implemented and brought through with the new ESC program. Looking at another question, so the second on the table, and that's whether volunteers can take another job whilst volunteering. In both EVS and ESC, this is not advisable. Volunteering under the Solidarity Corps is a full-time activity. Therefore, to ensure a volunteer's well-being, time for rest, and quality of learning experience, the UK National Agency strongly advises against taking up an additional job whilst they're undertaking a volunteering placement at the same time. Looking at APVs or advanced planning visits for in-country volunteering. In-country volunteering activities were not available, as we've just mentioned, under the EVS program, so this isn't really applicable to that. However, under ESC, advanced planning visits can be requested for in-country volunteering activities. However, they need to be well justified within the application form, and they also need to present value for money. Great, moving on to some other comparisons. So looking at financial support, ESC covers travel costs and additional expenses for disadvantaged young people in all types of placements, be it volunteering or the occupational strand. Internships and jobs are remunerated by the host organisation. And for volunteering placements, there's also additional subsistence costs in the form of pocket money, for example. If we look at the second, so are accompanying persons subsistence covered under exceptional costs? For EVS, the exceptional cost budget heading excludes costs for travel and organisational support for participants and accompanying persons under this particular programme. However, for ESC, for volunteering, subsistence and for accompanying persons is covered through the organisational support activity costs. And for the traineeships and jobs strand, for accompanying persons, subsistence can be claimed for during advanced planning visits, and that would be under the exceptional cost budget heading. So it's slightly different for the volunteering and the traineeships and jobs strand. I'll now pass back over to Gerald, who will take you through some of the other elements of the training.
Okay, folks, hi again. There are some questions. Questions have been coming in during the interval, which is good. That will give us a few things to work on at the end of the session. In this session, we're going to begin by looking at inclusion and support measures. Inclusion of young people with fewer opportunities has, of course, been a priority of previous European youth programmes, especially Erasmus+, for example. But the view is that the measures in that and previous programmes weren't sufficient, they weren't robust enough to achieve the inclusion of those young people as fully as we would like to see. So in the European Solidarity Corps programme, specific measures have been introduced to try to achieve this. Additional funding is the first measure. This is funding that would allow participating organisations to better accommodate and cater for the needs of these young people. To benefit from this funding, applicants are required to describe how the project will include young people who are at comparative disadvantage, i.e., they have comparatively fewer opportunities than their peers in the same country, for example, or area, age group, situation, circumstances. What are the specific needs to ensure their participation on equal terms? And what specific measures are planned in the programme to cater for these needs? So that's the first measure. Another measure is advanced planning visits. These are visits to the country of the host organisation before the start of the volunteering activities. Their purpose is to ensure high quality activities by facilitating and preparing administrative arrangements, building trust and understanding, and setting up a solid partnership between the organisations and people involved. The visits will be typically organised for activities involving young people with fewer opportunities. The allowance for this in the UK is €18 per day, and all travel costs are covered. So we would really recommend that you involve young people in advanced planning visits. This is a great measure and really needs to be used as fully as possible. Alongside those are something called complementary activities. These are side activities, activities with added value, things such as job shadowing or attending meetings, which enhance the experience for the volunteer. And 10% of the overall budget can be used for complementary activities. Another support measure, of course, within ESC, which didn't exist in EVS, is the in-country placements. Again, designed to facilitate the participation of young people with fewer opportunities. Remember, in-country activities should still present a clear European added value, and they can be complementary to existing national schemes. So that's in-country placements. Short-term volunteering. So this is volunteering for individuals, individual volunteering, which normally lasts from 2 to 12 months. That's the normal duration. But to encourage participation of young people with fewer opportunities, activities of 2 weeks to 2 months can be accepted and implemented. And these individual volunteering activities, they can take place cross-border, i.e. activities taking place in a country different from the country of residence of the participant, or they can be activities taking place in the same country as the residence country. Again, this measures to encourage and facilitate the participation of young people with fewer opportunities. Perhaps they are more anxious about the experience, so they don't want to commit to something beyond 2 months. Maybe they can only get a certain amount of time to participate, so designed to encourage inclusion. Volunteering teams. Now, these are solidarity activities allowing teams of 10 to 40 participants, coming from at least 2 different countries, to volunteer together, again for a period between 2 weeks and 2 months. Again, these activities designed especially, or this measure designed especially to enable inclusion of young people with fewer opportunities. In the volunteering teams, at least a quarter of the volunteers must come from abroad. So you could have 75% of participants in country to undertake these. Again, advantages of this type of group activity compared to individual activities. Volunteers work together in a group, so there's a sense of solidarity and support. It can be an incentive for youngsters who don't feel really ready to embark into a challenging experience on their own. Of course, the activity is shorter in its duration, so it can also foster participation of those youngsters who cannot commit for a long period of time, perhaps because of studies or jobs, but still want to be of help for their community. So they are some of the measures of the programme to encourage inclusion and support. Now let's look at some of the services that are being provided. So online training, and again you can see, if you refer to the guide, pages 52 onwards, in part C, you can follow these services. So online training. This is open access online training. It's like an introduction to what the core is offering. This is accessible once volunteers register on the portal. They can access online training. So this is a new feature. Linguistic support. This is support for volunteers where it's identified that it's something that ability, and it offers an assessment of language levels at the beginning of the activity and then an assessment at the end of the activity. So a very useful tool, a very useful service to support inclusion. Training and evaluation cycle, we'll look at that more closely in a minute. Okay. Mentoring. Personal and specialist support should be provided to all participants in volunteering, traineeships and jobs. Organisations working with young people with fewer opportunities can apply for specific funding for reinforced mentorships. This is where it's felt that those young people need particular mentoring support throughout the activity. These are this is additional funding that can be applied for under exceptional costs. So that's mentoring for volunteering, traineeships and jobs. Mentoring is also available in a sense through solidarity projects, because young people can appoint a coach to support them through the solidarity project activity. Coaches can be contracted for up to a total of 12 days at a euro figure, which means in the UK a coach can actually receive about €2,500 for that service. So that's a real incentive to young people, because they can actually, there is some money available to pay somebody who can support them through that process. Insurance, again, this is page 60-61 of the guide. All volunteers where it's feasible or possible should have the European Health Insurance Card. The Commission then provides insurance which is complementary to what the insurance card provides, or where volunteers they don't have access to the insurance card in their home countries, the Commission offers a full insurance. This insurance is available when volunteers are registered for the activity, and it will cover things like any another service to support the inclusion of all young people, especially young vulnerable young people. The European Solidarity Corps portal. This is where all potential volunteers register, and that opens access to a variety of services. And as a final support measure, there are the national and international network trainings. So like SOHO, which has been the course provided in the past for EVS. Network trainings will be provided in the future by the Salto office that's covering ESC. It's based in Austria. It's not quite ready to operate yet, but there will be network trainings available through that Salto support center in the future. Okay, so this is the inclusion and support equality label can gain access to the pool of participants through that portal, and the European Solidarity Corps Placement Administration and Support System database. So through the portal, they can gain access to all volunteers who are looking to volunteer. And through the PASS database, that can be used as a match. That's used as a matching tool for organisations and young people. Sorry, the portal itself opens, provides links access to a variety of support measures and possibilities. All participants have to be registered on the ESC portal and matched to relevant volunteering placements, traineeships or jobs through the PASS database. I wonder if hundreds of questions are flooding in now. So the training and evaluation cycle, tech. So in evaluation, it provides to participating organisations and participants. Firstly, guiding young participants through a non-formal learning process before, during and after their period of activity. But secondly, supporting quality label organisations in offering a qualitative framework for the experience to take place. So, I mean, similar to training and evaluation cycles in the past, the tech cycle for the ESC aims at doing the following. So it provides young participants with continuous guidance and support through the period of the activity. And this training and evaluation contributes to the education and development of each young person, facilitates contacts between participants, participating organisations and national agencies, and the SALTOs, the support centres, specifically in this case, the one that will be operating from Austria. It can also help resolve conflicts, prevent risks, and provide a means of assessing participants' experience. The training evaluation cycle for participants within ESC complements other ongoing support offered by the participating organisations before and during the activity period. And obviously that support will depend on what strand we're looking at, whether it's volunteering, traineeships, jobs, solidarity projects, etc. So, as I've said, it's built on the model of the tech in Erasmus Plus Youth. It has to be made available for participants in cross-border placements, on arrival training, the placements of 2 months and longer, midterm evaluation training, placement of 6 months and longer, an annual event. This brings together organisations that have been active in ESC to, well, essentially review how things have gone and improvements for the future. And pre-departure training. This is optional, but it's there as a measure, especially for young people with fewer opportunities, to encourage and support their inclusion. And as I said previously, the tech also aims at providing organisations with the necessary support and tools to develop and carry out qualitative projects, as well as the opportunity to exchange and network with other ESC actors. So it's the quality of these projects that tech is essentially involved with when it comes to supporting organisations. So, one, you know, it's all action in the office here. Apparently pre-departure training is not optional, I've just been advised. So please make a note of that. Pre-departure training must happen to support volunteers. Okay. All right, and speaking of supporting volunteers, let's move on now and let's look at Youthpass. And for this, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Ava, who's going to...
Hello, I hope you can hear me well. So, Youthpass. As you know, it's a tool to recognize the learning outcomes of the volunteers, and Youthpass is undergoing some changes to make sure that it fits within the context of European Solidarity Corps. Those changes were planned to happen in March 2019. Well, we have March 2019, but unfortunately the changes have not been actioned yet, but I can nevertheless tell you about them. So Youthpass under the Corps will exist next to the European Solidarity Corps certificate, which will be issued via PASS portal. So the European Solidarity Corps certificate will confirm participation, whereas Youthpass will still remain as a recognition tool. Youthpass in the core will have a new visual identity, which is being worked on at the moment, and it was related to the general visual elements of the Solidarity Corps. From the new developments, I can tell you that the part that describes the context and the project will be shorter than on the Youthpass as we know it, as the emphasis will be on individual part and especially on the learning outcomes. So the learning outcomes description will be linked to the key competences, and there will be a revised framework of the key competences. Well, it should be implemented pretty soon, and I will discuss that in my next slide. And there will be also a possibility to add a 9th competence, which will be more concrete and professional or task-related competence. And there will be an additional field to it, and that's mostly to accommodate the needs of the occupational strand, so jobs and traineeships projects. Hello, everybody. I'm back. Sorry about that. I was just told that you were not seeing the slide I was actually talking about, so we were trying to make sure that you see everything that I'm talking about at the moment. So just one last thing regarding changes to Youthpass for traineeships and jobs. So for the occupational strand and only for these types of activities, there will be also a possibility to add on Youthpass a short and overall assessment of the performance of the or significant changes. They more or less stay the same. It's just the names. Their names will change a little bit. So you can see on the slide the 2006 version and currently what's used on Youthpass. And then next to it, the revised version. So as you can see, the communication in the mother tongue will now become literacy competence. The communication in foreign languages will be multilingual competence. Mathematical competence, basic competences, science and technology will become mathematical competence and competence in science, technology and engineering. So that's more tailored to the occupational strand. Digital competence will remain the same, and learning to learn will now become personal, social and learning to learn competence. And then we have social and civic competences that will be now called citizenship competence. Sense of initiative and entrepreneurship will become entrepreneurship competence. And finally, cultural awareness and expression will be named cultural awareness and expression competence. So we are still waiting for those changes to be implemented. We were notified that they are happening, so just fingers crossed. And by the time the successful 2018 ESC projects will start issuing their Youthpass certificates, they will be all in place. If you have any questions regarding this, I'm still answering any questions in the questions facility or chat facility. Okay, that's it from me, and now I will give the floor back to Gerald.
Yeah, hi again, folks. I just wanted to add something about Youthpass because as a trainer working with Youthpass a lot, I have to say I'm looking forward to seeing how participants, because it's going to be used in the Erasmus Plus as well as ESC program, be interested to see how participants relate to the different learning outcomes of Youthpass now that they've been revised. Anyhow, folks, the Salto Resource Centre, I'm sure you're all familiar with Salto and the resource centres. A specific resource centre will be set, or has been set up to support the European Solidarity Corps programme. It's going to be run by the Austrian NA. They're still developing it, so it's not and as with responsibility for that, and they'll be carrying out the tech cycle as well in partner countries neighbouring the European Union. That will be the role of the Salto Resource Centre, and I'm sure they'll be developing training projects and support measures in collaboration with other Salto centres to promote and support ESC. Well, we're coming towards the end now of the webinar. We're providing, as you can see, some links and tools here, some of which are already there available as handouts. These links are here for you to use as you wish, if you aren't already aware of their availability. What we'd like to do now, as we're really coming to the end of the webinar, I thank you for bearing with us. As you've experienced, it's been a technically learned process for us here in the office. So that's been, I have to say, quite enjoyable as well as challenging. We're going to respond to questions in a moment. So I urge you, if there's anything else you'd like to ask, and I'd say anything that you as trainers would like to see in the future in terms of support, that might also be something worth sharing with us. So thank you for taking part in the webinar so far. We hope it's been useful, and we will respond to the questions, any suggestions in a moment or two. We'll respond live. I think Ava already has some responses to offer you. There we are. There's another example of if anything else comes in. We thank you for participating. Hope it's been useful. Hope remain involved with the program. Goodbye from Birmingham.